welcome to the Oakland County Megacast on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM, our flagship TV and radio stations. Comcast Channel 15, AT&T Channel 99 for Civic Center TV, as well as Birmingham Area Municipal Access in Birmingham, Bingham Farms, Beverly Hills, and the village of Franklin. In addition, today we're on 88.1 WBFH, the BIF, a service of the Bloomfield Hills School District, as well as online, civiccentertv.com. Click on our Watch Live link or watch on our small player there on the homepage. As well, today we are on the Facebook page of the West Bloomfield Township Clerk's Office, and we thank Clerk Debbie Binder and her entire team over next door at the West Bloomfield Township Clerk's Office for joining us as our Facebook partner on today's edition of the Oakland County Megacast. As always, with me today in the studio is Ronnie Dahl.
Tyler, what a great day out there. We hit the record of 70 degrees. I hope you got outside to enjoy the weather, because Mother Nature in March is a big tease.
It is a big tease, but I did get out there yesterday because I had some downtime in between all the regular work from here during the day, and then last night we had, of course, the Sylvan Lake City Council meeting. Those are at 7:30. It's a later meeting, so I'm here at 5:30, 5:45, and there's a bunch of downtime before I need to be getting that ready. So I went out back here at Chico Elementary, that's where our building is on the campus of, and shot some hoops for a little bit before the meeting last night. And it was very nice outside. At that time, it was kind of cloudy and windy, but it was perfect. It was really nice little breeze going out there. Some wind gusts that made shooting the ball a little bit tough, but still a lot of fun.
Did it get you excited for March Madness?
It did. It did get me excited for March Madness. Although I don't see my Spartans going all that far this year. This is a team that they run into. If they have an off day, they're done. If they have to be on throughout the entirety of that tournament. That being said, them beating Michigan, the number 2 team in the country, in their last regular season game, potentially putting them into the tournament, having beat more ranked teams than anyone else in the country this season, despite having an off year, and the Big Ten tournament coming up, there's nothing not to be excited about. I love basketball, and college basketball is extremely exciting. And on top of that, we missed the tournament last year because of all this, when my Spartans very well could have been national champions and got Cassius Winston the title he deserved.
Yeah, I keep thinking that, Tyler. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's the maybe. It's the possibility that is out there. But yes, last year it was canceled. I will say, though, as someone who is married to a sports person, you kind of like it, though, because your life kind of revolves around the sports schedule, and if they're traveling, when they're traveling, and a lot of these decisions are made at the last moment. Yeah. Especially as you get further into the tournament, because it's based on whether or not the team advances. So it's good, because you know what my husband's doing today?
What's he doing today?
He's watching the basketball game.
Oh, good for him.
And then most likely it'll be Zoom interviews afterwards, and he's doing it all from the comfort of our home.
Very nice. Very nice. What a great Thursday for Woody.
Yeah. So, but he did go to the Michigan State game, the time that Michigan won.
Yeah,
which was stupid. They played and then 2 days later they played
weird.
again.
They played on Thursday last week in Ann Arbor, and then they played on Sunday in East Lansing.
So they are starting to get out and being able to attend some of these games as members of the media. But it's been kind of nice having him home to a degree. I will say he anchors the show still from home.
Yes.
Some people are allowed to go back into the studio, some aren't. He's still not cleared, so he anchors the show from home. And so I have to time when I get home for when he's not on air. So it kind of goes back to your college days, where you do not disturb, you put the sock on the door. So I look up to see if the light in the one bedroom is on, because he's using that as his little makeshift studio. And, it's like, wait, is the light on? And because you can't open the garage door, you can't open the door because the dog goes crazy, and then this, that, and the other.
That's what's right.
So it's been an interesting year.
Yeah, to say the least. News anchors being at home and news reporters being at home have made for a lot of really nice bloopers for news viewers and people in the industry as well. But it can also be a little bit of a disturbance or a navigation process as well for significant others and people living with those reporters who are from home.
Right. These are the things that you have to go through. Although I will say, when I was working from home, he didn't really care. He was like, I'm coming and going as I please,
That's all right.
But hopefully they get back into the studio soon. There is talk about including members of the media and the essential worker list so that they can start to try to get vaccinated and get back out to actually doing their jobs the way that they used to do their jobs.
Yeah, that's something that we've had some conversations here just between us about whether that would be something that may come up later on down the line as the media continues to play a key role in disseminating information to people about the COVID-19 vaccination process, and particularly the mainstream media in the local area. I wouldn't at all be surprised if they get bumped up to essential workers as we get further on into this, and get bumped up a little bit in that vaccination process so that they can get more involved in the reporting on this and get people the information that they need.
My guess, though, is Whitmer's not going to include them until after the scandal with the nursing homes, because Zoom is working for her.
Keep them at a distance. Zoom, you only let certain people in. They got to field some of their questions to her media team before. I think she's very comfortable. Any politician would be very comfortable with that system. So as long as she can hold out with that, I think she's going to hold out with it.
So while we're sitting there, and we just mentioned it, Tyler, let's go ahead and jump into the headlines, and I'll jump down just a little bit with that one. Is we've been talking about this recently here on the show. Governor Whitmer stands by her nursing home policy amid legal threats. She's faced criticism over a nursing home policy that her administration put in place in the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic. Initially, patients who tested positive for COVID were placed in the same facility with patients who did not have COVID. Whitmer ended that practice after the first 6 months of the pandemic. Now, there is growing scrutiny over the policy, with the prospect of lawsuits and other legal action. Whitmer said she remains proud of her team's overall response to the coronavirus. Now, her policy differed from New York's Governor Andrew Cuomo because Whitmer says she didn't force COVID-positive patients to reside with COVID-negative patients. Instead, she incentivized the process by paying homes to take patients who had contracted COVID-19. But again, who was actually going in to make sure that they were following the rules that were put in place to have 2 separate wings and different staff members. So the most current count puts the long-term care death count at 5,537 here in the state of Michigan, which is more than 35% of all of the state's COVID deaths. Macomb County Prosecutor Pete Lucido is expected to announce an effort to prosecute Whitmer for her nursing home policy. Part of this has to do with trying to get access to some of the accurate information. So when they're releasing the new COVID deaths every day, and there's always an asterisk that says so many deaths were added to the daily count due to vital records review. So some people are trying to get those numbers. Charlie LaDuff, we had him on the show. His interview is on civiccentertv.com if anyone wants to go back and listen to it. He is one of the ones suing Whitmer, her administration, for these numbers and the vital records review, because she's saying, we don't know because we didn't keep track of that. So the Department of Health and Human Services sent an update saying that nursing home patients who were transferred to the hospital and then died would now be counted as a nursing home death if they had not been discharged from the care facility. Charlie LaDuff, along with his podcast, the No BS News Hour, he also writes for Deadline Detroit. If anyone is concerned about this issue, please go back and take time to read some of his articles, because basically in his reporting, he has found that what they're doing is when some of these patients are being transferred to the hospital, then they count them as a hospital death, not as a nursing home death. And so it's hard to get a true, accurate counting of the numbers. And so that's where we are on that issue. And of course, is coming to light after all the news coming out of New York, because this program was based on New York's program.
Yeah, slight differences, but similar outcomes to that in New York. And that's what the major issue is here. And if there is that clerical error where people have been transferred from nursing homes to hospitals because their case of COVID-19 became major and then died in the hospital, and they're not being counted for their time in the nursing homes and potential spread to other people in the nursing homes, then that is a major discrepancy in this information that at the very least needs to be clarified. And if that is being done on purpose to fudge the numbers, then at that point it becomes an even more serious issue for the governor and her staff.
So one of the things I will say, Charlie LaDuff has been on this story since the very beginning.
Yes.
He's been pushing it in mainstream media, has not been on it. Pete Lucido, when he was still in Lansing, he made it an issue, and then of course he got elected to the Macomb County Prosecutor's Office. Now he's continuing that fight as a prosecutor. Senator Runstad, we've had him on the show talking about some of these issues as well, and one of the things they're saying is everyone is having issues with trying to get accurate data. And that's really kind of been one of the big issues throughout this entire pandemic. And if you're counting these numbers, then if you're doing a vital records review, there's got to be some information with that, because you're now including those in your daily death totals. And some people do believe this is kind of one way that the Whitmer administration is trying to take that backlog of people that weren't initially counted and spread them out over the system.
Yeah, and that's where one of the major issues comes into play, because we knew early on in this pandemic that the nursing homes were a hotbed for COVID-19 cases. It was a problem area for treating COVID-19 cases, not only preventing the spread of COVID, but preventing deaths related to COVID as well. And so if the Whitmer administration, if the Department of Health and Human Services is fudging this data, not necessarily in the sense of eliminating COVID cases or death numbers in general, but of spreading them out to make this singular issue, this major issue, seem less major, that is a huge, huge problem and a misinformation campaign that would not be tolerated by the public.
I think that mainstream media has kind of glossed over this issue up until now, but after everything that came out in the state of New York, and also you have Pete Lucido and Runstad pushing the issue, at least give us the accurate information, we're going to continue to see this to grow some legs. And again, I want to give credit to Charlie LaDuff. I worked with him at Fox 2. He is by far one of the most well-sourced reporters in the Detroit market. He has people in all levels, because he doesn't just take that press release information. He gets people that are in the trenches that give him the real information, the real deal as to what's happening on the boots on the ground. So we'll have to watch that and see.
I believe that Peter Lucido, the prosecutor from Macomb County, is having a press conference today regarding that. I believe that is at 1 o'clock. I'm just looking up to see if I can confirm that, but I do know he does plan on having a press conference to address that very issue and the potential of prosecution of the governor on this later on today.
And of course, a lot of people are saying, hey, it's politics. He is a Republican.
Sure.
She is a Democrat. But he's saying, no, this goes beyond that. So we'll continue to watch that for you as well. Hey, no surprise here, enrollment declines in Michigan public schools due to COVID-19. We're pretty much well aware of that because of all the superintendents we have had on the show. But now the Michigan Department of Education is reporting an enrollment decline of about 3.7% in public schools in the fall of 2020 compared to the previous fall. Oakland County lost an estimated 6,400 students, so that's a drop of about 3.5%. State and county officials say that most of the losses are due to parents deciding to homeschool their children, to enroll them in private schools, or to delay enrolling their children in kindergarten. State and local officials have few means, though, of tracking these shifts. Oakland Schools has a team that assisted local districts in calling families to find out why their children weren't attending school this year, either in person or virtually. So the parents or guardians of more than 17,000 students statewide told their public school districts upon exiting last year they were going to be homeschooling. In a typical year, that number is only about 3,000. And one of those reasons being, too, when we came to the public school was the back and forth. Hey, there's an outbreak now. Your kids have to stay home. that makes it very hard, especially so for the families that could afford it. They were able to then go ahead and send their kids to private school because those schools were in session.
Yeah, it's been a balancing act for the school districts and for these families throughout the pandemic as policies have shifted to, okay, we're going to start to gradually go back in person to, okay, we need to pull things back and go back to virtual because cases are rising. Families have become frustrated. They want their kids to learn in person. It's not... This virtual learning is not for everybody. It's not something that every student is comfortable with or able to learn at the same rate as in person. And so they're sending their kids to private school or they are homeschooling them. And that's part of the reason why some school districts have been working even harder to put policies in place that kind of give that healthy mixture and make things even more gradual so that when there is this back and forth, it doesn't affect their learning as much. Just yesterday, we talked with Superintendent James Schwartz from the Avondale School District, who had said just that. They had been making plans over the last several months in their return to learn plans to make things even more gradual and even more of a hybrid method as this pandemic continues on, so that when these policies, if and when these policies do have all that back and forth, it doesn't as heavily affect these families because they're already in a mostly hybrid nature, where it does kind of lean more in person when the opportunity presents itself, but when things need to be pulled back, it's a softer transition than it is when you're just saying, okay, all of a sudden, we're going back to virtual.
Well, keep in mind, too, Tyler, not everyone has a job where they can work virtually. Mm-hmm. So what are parents supposed to do if they have to go into work? A high school kid you can leave alone, but
child,
no. So it really puts so many families in a tough spot. Mm-hmm. So it's not surprising, but keep in mind, every student loss is money out of that district's pocket. Yeah. I believe it's $5,700, $5,900 that's attached to each student.
Yeah, and
so you add that up, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, and on top of that, the numbers this year are so drastic. I mean, you expect those numbers to be up in a year where there's been a pandemic, but that's nearly a six-fold increase from approximately 3,000 kids a year being switched to private or being switched to homeschooling to 17,000. That's almost a six-time increase.
I will say I'm glad I went to school where I went because homeschooling, no way. Oh, yeah. To me, school was so much more. It wasn't about the education so much, it was the activities. I mean, I was in every activity that you could imagine, and that was school for me. So.
Yeah, I think I would have been okay with the virtual learning just because I did end up taking a few virtual classes while I was in college, but it's a lot different for kids that are used to being in school day after day, week after week, each year through, seeing their friends. It's really their biggest social interaction activity of their childhood is being in school, and then having that switched out for a year, being back and forth, and having all that uncertainty, and then when this is over, going back to that traditional model, whatever that may be, it's always a tough transition, and it's going to affect them not just in this next year or so as we come out of the pandemic, but throughout the rest of their academic life potentially.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Hey, Oakland County is hosting the COVID-19 Tribute Walk. I don't know if you've seen video of this. It is on oak.gov if anyone wants to see it. To mark the one-year anniversary since the area's first case of COVID-19, Oakland County is opening a tribute walk in Waterford. The half-mile-long Oakland Together COVID-19 Tribute Walk will feature interactive public memorials and light displays at Waterford Oaks County Park. It was designed as a way to help visitors reflect on the impact of the pandemic, show gratitude to frontline workers, and remember those who have died locally from the virus. The county also created 2 online memorials to coincide with the tribute walk, and you can find those on oak.gov. The light display will begin behind the park's Lookout Lodge, located on Scott Lake Road in Waterford. It was created by Blue Water Technologies. The Oakland Together COVID-19 Tribute Walk is going to be open to the public starting Monday, March 15th from 7:30 until 9:30 p.m. So Monday, March 15th to Sunday, March 21st. Tickets are $5 per person. There's been a little bit of discrepancy in some of the information about the tickets. At first it was like, oh, we want a $5 donation. Now it's saying, no, you need to get a ticket and pre-register. And then they'll donate that money to a charity to be named at a later date. However, I've been online several different places trying to find how I get a ticket because they're supposed to be available starting today. I see the map. You go to oak.gov. The West Bloomfield Parks Division is also co-sponsoring this. I went to their page, and so far, I've not been able to find where you can get those tickets because I would imagine they are going to go pretty quickly.
It looks like they will go on sale sometime today.
Yeah.
It says in that article, will go on sale Thursday, March 11th. So either that sale hasn't begun yet and they haven't updated that website, or they need to put that on their website because it's Thursday, March 11th.
Right. So it's oak.gov. So I'm watching it. Article. But we'll see. But if you do want to go, I've seen video. Some of the media outlets did get a preview, and it looks like it is a beautiful way that they've come together to pay tribute. So $5 for those tickets, and it will go to a charity to later be determined. So you'll find those headlines and so much more if you just go to civiccentertv.com, click on coronavirus, and that's where you'll find the daily headlines. And also at the top of the page, the tabs for our various entities, and that includes the Oakland County government. So if you want to try to get those tickets as well. A lot to get to here on the Thursday edition of the Megacast. When we come back, we'll be speaking with the spokesperson for the Michigan Department of Corrections. We know about nursing homes being hit especially hard. Our prisons have as well. But we've talked to the spokesperson before when it came to testing. How is it working with the vaccines? When will they get the vaccines? Do they already have them? We'll be talking to Chris Gautz when we come back here on the Megacast.
Hi, my name is Kurt Lawson, and I'm the Public Information Officer for West Bloomfield Township. We wanted to reach out to you, our older adults, to provide information that you may find useful during this difficult time. We want to ensure you that West Bloomfield Town Hall, our Waters and Utility Department, West Bloomfield Parks, and our police and fire departments continue to work hard on your behalf. Information and resources can be found on the Township website, the police Facebook and Twitter, or call West Bloomfield Park's COVID-19 Help Hotline. Please remember to keep your social distance of at least 6 feet, wear facial coverings when you leave your home, and wash your hands for at least 20 seconds with soap. These precautions will help keep you safe during these difficult times.
This may seem uncomfortable, but so is being hooked to an IV, sleeping in a hospital bed, and fighting for your life. When it comes to COVID-19, comfort is not as important as saving lives. Wearing a mask can greatly reduce the chance of spreading the virus. So mask up, Michigan, every time you leave home.
To say thank you for being with us here on the Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl here in the studios alongside Mr. Tyler Keefe. You can catch us Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. until noon. I almost said 2. And then I was like,
man,
wow.
That would be a process.
Yeah, we don't want to do that.
No.
4 hours? Oh my gosh, I can barely make it through 2, Tyler. Hey, but we are here Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. until noon. And then if you do by chance miss the full show or even portions of the show, you can always catch it on civiccentertv.com. Just click on the Megacast or the on-demand section, and you'll be able to watch some of those previous interviews. We've talked a lot on the show about the coronavirus in the nursing homes, but another population that has been hit is our prison population, because it's kind of hard to be socially distanced when you have a limited amount of space and you're locked up behind bars. With us now on the show, Chris Gautz. He's the spokesperson for the Michigan Department of Corrections. Chris, great to have you with us.
Thanks, Ronnie. Good to be on.
I know we've had you on a couple times in the past when we were talking about the virus spreading through the prison and some of the efforts that the staff members were trying to do to help mitigate that issue. Now I feel like we're moving into a new phase of the virus. Can you talk to us about the vaccine and where that stands about getting not only the prisoners but also your staff members vaccinated?
Yeah, so this is something that we've been working on for obviously the last few months since the vaccines, became available. And back in late January, early February, we completed our first phase of the vaccine for our prisoners. We did about 4,000 in that first round of vaccinations that ended on February 3rd. And that was for prisoners who were over the age of 65. And then if we had any remaining doses at individual prisons, it went to those who were under 65 who had pre-existing medical conditions that made them more at risk for an adverse reaction to COVID if they were to get it. This week, actually, so your call was perfect timing, because this week right now we're in our next phase. And right now at every prison around the state this week, we're offering it to prisoners who are over the age of 50. And then if there's any left, then it goes to those who are under the age of 50 who have existing medical conditions as well. So by the end of this week, so by tomorrow, about 8,000 of our prisoners out of 33,000 total will have had the opportunity to be vaccinated.
What's the timeline to get everyone vaccinated?
That timeline isn't up to us. It's determined by the Department of Health and Human Services. It's our understanding, though, that hopefully within the next few weeks to a month, we could have just about every prisoner able to be vaccinated. We're still following the schedules, just like in the general public. That's why when 50 and up, we're able to get it in the general public, 50 and up in the prisons we're able to get it. So we're working through that system, and hopefully very quickly we'll be able to have the vaccine offered to all of our prisoner population.
So Chris, we know that first responders and police officers were included in that first phase. Have all of your employees been able to get vaccinated?
Yeah, thankfully, the first individuals on our staff inside the prisons were our healthcare workers, so our nurses, doctors, and those kind of folks in our prisons were the first that were able to get it under the state health department's plan. And those individuals started being able to receive those on December 30th. As of yesterday, now all of our prisons have had the ability to have the vaccination there on site, as well as being able to coordinate it just generally in the community, going to the health department, going to Walgreens, what have you. But we also secured enough doses through the state health department that we were able to offer the vaccine to every prison employee who wanted it, and we're able to bring that on site to them to be either administered by the local health department or by the Michigan National Guard.
That's good news to hear. And plus, we had the CDC come out this week with the new guidelines for people that are vaccinated. How does that change how you operate day to day?
Right now, it's not going to change anything. Just because we are in a congregate setting, we have to be extra careful. We want to make sure that we're not letting our guard down at all. We don't want to see spikes. We don't want to see the variant show up and come through the facilities again. So we're going to hold true to our policies and our protocols, and we're going to remain making sure that all prisoners, all staff are required to wear masks at all times, as well as doing weekly testing at all sites as well.
And Chris, I'm not giving you guys a pass here, but I will say you're in a tough situation because how do you socially distance people? And I know one thing that is being done is to release those that qualify early. Can you talk to us about your numbers overall, where they are in the state of Michigan with the releasing of some of the inmates?
Sure. So last year we paroled about 8,000 prisoners. But again, I don't want people to hear that and be worried that we were somehow just opening up the doors and letting people out because we didn't want them to get COVID. That's not the case. That was about the same number of people that we paroled the year before. And that's because our guidelines and our protocols and standards around parole remain the same. Public safety is the first and only, the first and top priority for us. That said, we did move forward. When normally, say, someone who is seen by the board, we would typically say to them, well, we'll see you in a year. We're not really ready for you to be, we don't think you're ready to be released. We'll see you in a year. Once the pandemic hit, we decided to move that up and say, okay, let's look at them again now. Did they complete a class? Maybe did they go another few months without getting into any trouble? And let's interview them again and let's see if we have a different opinion. And so all we did was move up that period, but no one is allowed to be released early in Michigan due to truth in sentencing. So everyone who's eligible for parole in Michigan has been reviewed by the parole board, and everyone who the board felt safely could be released has been released. And so right now our prison population is down to about 33,000 prisoners. When the pandemic started, we were just north of 38,000. So this is the lowest prison population Michigan has had since the mid-1990s. So about 30 years now since this population level we've seen. And we just released a projection just a few days ago to the legislature where we're predicting by 2025 that population could decrease another few thousand down to about 31,000 individuals, which again would be a low that we haven't seen in many decades.
So what would you contribute that number to?
Certainly a big part of it this year is COVID. Our population dropped quite a bit. Obviously, being down 4,500 prisoners from a year ago is a massive decline. And a big chunk of that obviously is because of COVID, because the courts are sending fewer people to us, and crime is down in many places, parts of the state, and so that contributes mightily to it. And so that's the big reason. Also, though, our big pushes on education, reforms, those kind of things are helping individuals in the community not coming back to prison, and that's been a big part of our push as well.
So if I can go back to just a second, you were saying that just because of COVID, people that were maybe, they were sentenced because or convicted of like low-level violence crimes is what I guess they're referred to, more financial crimes, things of that nature. They're not getting out early just because they're not deemed a threat to society, right?
Yeah, we have no authority under the law to release individuals until they've served that minimum sentence. So if someone gets a 5 to 10 year sentence, they have to serve all full that 5 years before we're allowed to do anything with them. And of our 33,000 prisoners, 85% of them have not served their minimum sentence. So that's a huge chunk of our population that we just have no say over whether or not they can be released. And
I think that's a big misconception in the community right now is I don't think that's been made clear. It's like, hey, just because of A, B, C, D, and E doesn't mean they're getting out of jail early card.
Yeah, we hear that from advocates, from lawmakers and others who wonder why more people aren't being released. And, that's something that if people want to see that happen, that's something that they need to contact their legislator about, and they would need to repeal or to truth in sentencing or do something around that law. There's no mechanism that we have to do that.
Before we jump ahead, because I do want to ask you about staffing right now, but you touched on the variants of COVID-19 that are starting to spread right now. How concerning is that to members of the leadership within the prison population?
Oh, it's very concerning. We did have an experience with a variant at one of our prisons back last month, and we had to immediately work with the state health department to do everything we could to contain that as much as possible. We had one employee who tested positive for the variant. We received that news late in the afternoon, early evening. By the next morning, we were already in a system of everyone at the facility was wearing full PPE suits. We started segmenting out and cohorting all of the prisons and the units, and then we went to a system of daily COVID testing, which is something that we haven't done, and I don't think any other state in the country has done that level of testing. So every day we're doing anywhere from 1,100 to 1,400 COVID tests at that prison. We've been doing that since February 9th, and that continues through to this day.
And just at that prison or all the prisons?
Just at that prison, and then there were two prisons where before we learned that we had the variant at that prison, about 20 or 30 of those prisoners had been moved to either Macomb or to Jackson because they were elderly or they had medical conditions that we were concerned might make them more prone to having an adverse reaction. And in those two areas, the health systems there have told us that if we needed a prisoner to be hospitalized, they could take those people in. And so they'd already been moved there, and then we learned we had the variant. And so then we're doing the daily testing for anyone who comes in contact with those individuals as well. And thankfully, though, that is not spread at either of those two prisons. And so that's a pretty big accomplishment given how contagious this British variant can be.
Chris Gautz with us here on the Megacast. He's the spokesperson for the Michigan Department of Corrections. And Chris, if we can talk, we should recognize that there have been members of your staff as well as prisoners that have died due to COVID-19, and their lives mattered. And we should take a moment to recognize that they have died from this virus as well, just like outside of the prison populations. It has touched your organization very closely as well. But when we talk about the staff members, I think one of the things that really came to light throughout this pandemic, how hard it is to get people to want to come and work for the Department of Corrections. Where are your staffing levels right now, and are you hiring?
Yeah, well, first of all, I wanted to say thank you for mentioning that. It is a very tough on our staff, and we have had for individuals who work for us who have passed away to COVID, and 138 prisoners. And that loss of life does need to be reflected on and remembered, especially as we come upon this year now of dealing with COVID. So I appreciate that. But yes, we are hiring. We have been hiring. We're in the midst of hiring about 800 new corrections officers this year. And under the budget that Governor Whitmer proposed last month, if approved by the legislature, we'll be hiring another 800 new officers at the start of the fiscal year that begins in October. And so we're continuing that push. We have staff who are in the academies right now. We have a graduation ceremony next week in Lansing. We have about 160 to 200 employees, new officers who are going to be graduating there. And every day we're looking for new staff, so they can go on our website and they can apply. And thankfully, we've seen pretty good numbers of individuals who are interested in coming to work for the department, which may run counterintuitive to, just like you mentioned. You might think, who wants to raise their hand to go work in a congregate setting in the middle of a global pandemic? But there's a great call to service and a real public spirit that we've seen amongst our recruits, many of them who have ties, who have family members who have worked for the department, and see it as a real calling and a way to help their communities stay safe. And so thankfully we've seen those numbers stay up, but we're certainly doing advertising and trying to get everybody we can to come in and work with us.
And Chris, what are the qualifications needed?
So to be a corrections officer, you need to obviously have a high school diploma. You also have to have some college credits as well. You don't have to have a college degree, but you do have to take some college level classes. And so back a year or so ago, we changed some of those requirements. So because we had some people who didn't have the classes under their belt, but they wanted to come work. And so we waived the college requirement and said, if you can come to work with us right now, if you don't have any of those college classes, but in the first 18 months of your employment, if you can complete those classes, then you can remain on the job. And that opened the gates to having hundreds of new people coming in. And then they take the classes at night, or they take them online on the weekends, and they're able to work with us and do that work. And that's been a great way to bring more people in, and a lot of people have taken advantage of that.
And do you anticipate, because the governor has opened up a new pathway for people to get free college tuition, at least on the college or the community college level, that could open up the pathways to bring more employees your way as well?
It certainly could, and we certainly welcome that. We want to make sure we have the best educated workforce possible, making sure that they know that there are other options available to them to further their careers and education if they want to complete that degree and decide that maybe working inside the prison isn't what's for them. If they can get that college degree, they could go and become a field agent where a college degree is required. And so there are a lot of people who have made that jump from the inside the prisons to then working outside, supervising offenders on the outside, or many other jobs in our department. And so we find that it's just a great place to work, and we have multiple generations of families work with us, and so we hope that more and more choose to take that path as well.
Well, just like for so many of our loved ones in our nursing facilities, I know that visitation has been closed. In-person visitation has been closed in so many of the prisons as well. What is the status of that? Are you offering in-person visitation?
Not yet, but again, your timing is very good. You may see an announcement about that, possibly later today or tomorrow. And so your timing is very, very good. But yes, our plan, we shut down or suspended in-person visiting in our facilities on March 13th of 2020, and our goal is to be able to restore in-person visiting, hopefully by the end of this month, as long as those facilities aren't under quarantine or there's not a current outbreak there. And so we'll have information on our website once we've fully made that announcement. Individuals who want to come and visit will be able to, they'll have to go online and register and schedule an appointment. And then they'll have to check our website to make sure that that facility didn't experience a recent outbreak. And then we'll go through that, and we'll be able to get back, because we realize how important in-person visiting is, and be able to have that personal connection and being able to be in the same room with someone. And so we really want to get back to that. In the meantime, we have been offering video visitation as well, and that video visitation piece will continue even as in-person visits are resumed, just because we know that if you live in Detroit but your loved one is in Muskegon or Manistee or up in the UP, it can be hard. Or maybe it's in next winter, it'll be the snow is hard to travel. You can still hop on your computer and be able to have that connection and see that individual. So that's something that will continue as well.
So Chris, though, quickly, if I can ask you, when you're talking about the video visitations, what is the cost for those? Because we do know that some of the phone calls and some of these video conferences, they're quite expensive. Have you waived the fees during this time?
So, but yeah, before the pandemic started, we were able to work with our communications providers to offer several free calls and several free emails per week. The video calls, we were able to work with our provider. The ones who do the video calls are the same ones who do our telephones. And so the cost of the video is the same price as a regular telephone call. So we were able to bring that cost way down. And so it's about 17 cents per minute to do the video call, and it's a 20-minute call. And
we should point out that this is an outside contractor. It's not the state of Michigan Department of Corrections.
That's right.
Because when I hear 17 cents a minute, it's like, hi, baby, I love you. It's good to hear you. Okay, I got to go by. Because it quickly adds up. We're lucky because now with all the cell phones, we don't have those charges. And Tyler, I don't know if you're old enough to remember, but they used to have the zone calls and the fees, like if you were calling across to Livonia
phone calls,
or something, it kind of counted as a long distance call or this, that, and the other, and boy, those numbers could really add up. I dated a guy who was in the military, and $400 and $500 phone bills were not unusual. So
yeah, we worked really hard to make sure, because there have been states where those fees and that cost has been really high, and so a few years ago we renegotiated that contract with that provider, and basically we went to them and we said, we want all of the services and benefits that you're providing to us, but we want you to cut the amount that the loved ones and the prisoners pay. And we told them, I believe I can't remember if it's 16 or 17 cents, but we told them that's the amount that we want it to be, and you have to provide all the same things. And if you want that contract, that's what the terms are. And they met that, because we wanted to bring down that cost, and we're saving the families of loved ones who call the prisoners now millions of dollars a year based on the reductions that we were able to negotiate.
Chris Gautz with us here on the Megacast. He's the spokesperson for the Michigan Department of Corrections. Chris, we always appreciate your time. Anything maybe I didn't touch on that you want to add before we say goodbye?
No, just that just a week or so ago, we announced our recidivism rate, which is now the lowest in state history at 26.6%. So that's how many people come back to prison within 3 years of being released. And so having that number down is a huge accomplishment. It means that those individuals who are being released, far fewer of them are coming back, which means that means we're having safer communities and fewer victims, because of the efforts that we're doing on the inside to help them have better outcomes, as well as supervising them in new and more efficient ways, is leading to far better outcomes and having the lowest recidivism rate now than we've ever had.
Well, that benefits all of us, but if I can ask, what are some of those efforts that are being done indoors to try to help the prisoners succeed when they are released?
So there's a ton of evidence-based programming that we do, cognitive therapies, making sure that we're addressing the risks and the needs that individuals have. That's a big part of it. Our core programming, we are the largest provider of adult education in the state. We provide more GEDs than any other school or ISD in the state. And so that's part of it. That gets them their baseline. And then we can offer them the ability to take college courses, get an associate's or a bachelor's degree through some of the colleges and universities that we work with, as well as our vocational trades training centers, our vocational villages that we've offered. And actually just in the next few weeks, hopefully, we're going to be opening up our third vocational village at our women's prison in Ypsilanti that's going to offer things like cosmetology, 3D printing. There's a whole bunch of things like that we've been doing around the state, welding, electrical, plumbing, electrical, architecture programs that help these individuals get a leg up. And then we have employment counselors that work for us, that work to get these individuals jobs before they even walk out the door.
Well, that's a great program to have, because we do know so many people, if they have a felony conviction on their record, it's hard for them to find work, even with these skills. So that is a piece of the puzzle as well. Chris, we so appreciate your time here today.
Yeah, thank you. Anytime.
We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast. When we come back, we'll be speaking with Pastor Tim with Shepherd King Lutheran Church. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
The only way to beat COVID-19 is to face it. You can't get too comfortable.
You can't forget the danger.
Wear the mask.
Wear the mask.
Wear the mask. Wash your hands.
Keep a safe distance.
Especially in the next few months.
You know we'll get back to normal.
We'll get back to normal.
We'll get back to normal.
Someday.
But not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
But not yet.
But not yet.
Consider virtual gatherings for the holidays.
Curbside food orders.
Grocery delivery.
And shopping local. Shop local.
And especially shopping local.
Let's beat this virus. We can if we face it together.
Together.
Together. Together.
Together.
Together.
Together.
Together. Together.
Together.
Together. For the latest information, visit oakgov.com/COVID.
Michigan, the coronavirus pandemic has put us all to the test. And now it's time to put COVID-19 to the test. As we move forward, testing will be critical. We encourage anyone who has reason to get tested to do so, those with symptoms and those without. If you are leaving home and going back to work, get tested. If you think you may have COVID-19 or you've been exposed recently through family, friends, or coworkers, get tested. Our test locator tool can help you find the right testing site that fits your needs. Even if you're looking for easy access with no cost, no prescription, and no appointment necessary, we've got you covered. Help Michigan move forward, not backward. To find a testing site or learn more, visit michigan.gov/coronavirus test. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Perry tested positive for COVID-19. Emma was exposed to a friend who's positive. Willa's waiting on test results. After any contact with COVID-19, or if you test positive, stay home for at least 10 days. If you live with others, keep your distance and wear a mask. Help Michigan contain COVID-19. Visit michigan.gov/contain-COVID.
Back with us here on the Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl in the studios alongside the one, the only Mr. Tyler Keefe. Tyler, I'm happy to hear you guys found the bird.
Yes, we did. We found I don't know if it was the same bird, if it was Dave Allbirdie, as we called him, or if it was a different bird that was in our building. It came in last week, Tuesday. We thought we got it we thought we had chased it out and it had been gone. It was back on Wednesday. We thought it was gone again. We didn't see it again the entire week, and then we came in, and on Monday, I'm just doing some technical checks with our RT director, Eugene, and with West Bloomfield Township, and I'm walking back, and I hear a chirping sound from back in the direction of our server room and our loading dock area. And so Jake Kustash, our booking producer here at the Oakland County Megacast, and I tag teamed to help chase that bird out of the garage area. And this time we physically saw it swoop under the garage door and out into the back 40 of Chico Elementary, and watched very intently as that door closed back down. So we should be bird free. But that being said, I am still hearing chirping sounds here and there that I know aren't there. So I'm just now paranoid about birds potentially being in this building and outsmarting all of us. But that will go away with time, or won't.
So you know that we've had a bird that's been visiting us each and every day, and it's a cardinal, and they say when you see one, it's a visit from heaven.
Yes.
So we look for these signs in our lives, and for so many people, they look to their faith for signs to see them through this pandemic, and it's been especially hard because so many churches have had to close their doors and go virtual.
Yes.
But they're starting to see more and more members come back to the actual service, in-person service. With us now on the Megacast, let's bring in Tim Holzerland. He is the pastor for Shepherd King Lutheran Church in Pontiac. Pastor Tim, great to have you with us.
I'm actually in West Bloomfield.
Oh, you're West Bloomfield.
I am, Middle Belt and Maple.
And I always wondered about that area, because I will say I live down the street from you. And that corner, it gets a little weird, like between what part is West Bloomfield Township, what part is Sylvan Lake, what part is Pontiac. But we're all one community.
Mm-hmm. We are, absolutely.
So, Pastor, can you tell us how's it going for members of your congregation? You guys are back in person now, correct?
We are. We started up in the summer, but it was We're only about a couple days away from the year observance, we'll say. I first got the news from the deputy chief and the fire chief of West Bloomfield that we would have to, we were kind of on the Zoom or a conference call at that particular time with the majority of the religious leaders in West Bloomfield. And we were notified that we would be closing that particular weekend, and we didn't really have a date set for when we would reopen again. So that was distressing news.
Right. 2 weeks to flatten the curve.
So, but I will say this, that our congregation, and there were members at our church who quickly pivoted to online worship. We have never done that before. We didn't even really consider it before. But, we got there, whatever equipment we could get together. That next Sunday, boom, we were up and running. We recorded our worship service, and we let our members know. We let the general public know. One of the real blessings I think that came out of that, as we rolled into like April and May, people were searching for something online, and we got these cards and letters from people outside of West Bloomfield, and in some cases outside the state, who were just looking for these resources. They're looking for hope. We had, I recorded some sort of like a history of pandemic, from 100 years ago, and how churches dealt with it at that particular time and what hope that they had. And we really got some great and encouraging messages from people, online. But again, some people sent us cards and were thanking us for what we did. So in some ways, it was kind of a blessing. We were able to reach farther than we ever thought we could, just locally here in West Bloomfield.
Well, we know that some churches, they have a better broadcast setup than what we do here. But you were saying that you were going online for the first time. So along with some members of your church, you're learning the technology side of things. Any hiccups along the way?
Yeah, I don't, we tend to figure things out rather quickly. I thought it was okay. I think that what ended up happening is that when we went back to in-person worship, we weren't going to give up the online presence. And so we were continuing to do it that way. It was interesting trying to figure out where we're going to position the camera, or a choir member kind of getting in the way. And I would get these floor direction cues, so to speak, and so I'm like, which way do you want me to turn, left or right? Or no, I want to. It's all right, I'll step forward. Okay, got it. All right.
To my left, to your right, but you have a TV broadcasting background.
Oh, I do. Yes, I have a bachelor's degree in television production. So, work for an independent television station. Man, this is a long time ago.
I know, but isn't it? See how life brought you back full circle?
I know. I was at a small station in Southern Illinois, and it was back in the day before Fox.
Uh-huh.
And there were all these little independent TV stations that were owned by, individuals, and a lot of them just wanted it as a tax write-off. But you had so much freedom to do a lot of different things that you can't do now. And anyway, I, felt the call for the ministry, though, probably about 2-3 years into my job, it's come full circle now, but we're talking 35 years ago. I mean, it's been a long time.
So was that 3/4 deck tape times?
Yes, it was.
We've come a long way. Now we're recording on our cell phones.
I mean, man, the equipment and how huge it was, and now, I look at it now and go, oh my gosh, it was, if only, spending all this time white balancing a camera. I mean, crazy.
Pastor Tim with us here on the Megacast. He's with Shepherd King Lutheran Church. With that, so as you're learning the new technology, one of my big concerns throughout this pandemic has been on so many of our seniors, because I still have friends that are not on the internet. So how has that been, and how have you tried to bridge that gap for members of your congregation?
Well, we've done that mostly through phone contact, and giving them, a frequent call to see how they're doing. I was really proud of a group of our members who really intentionally made that possible. They just were not going to let our shut-in members fall through the cracks, and there were some that really took the lead on that, to make sure that some of our people were really looked after. Do you have everything that you need? I got a call from two of our shut-ins who had said, I've had like about 5 phone calls this week. I'm okay. But, I'd rather have it that way than people saying, I haven't heard from anybody in months. But, again, that it's tough, and especially for those who are in nursing homes. So I was very concerned, especially for those with memory loss, that they would forget who I was, or my position as pastor and in the congregation. But fortunately, those particular members were, again, hearing my voice and making the connection, and it helped. But face to face, or in some ways giving them Holy Communion, which is part of our church teaching, I haven't been able to do that since March of last year.
So with that, do you think this pandemic has helped strengthen the relationships within the people in your congregation, or have you lost some members because they haven't kept up with their faith?
Well, there's kind of, and it's strengthened it in some ways, where to let you know, there's, I guess you would say, we were taking our fellowship for granted to certain degrees. And so the pandemic was a blessing in one way, where it really let all of us know that we can't take these relationships for granted, that they're very precious to us. And they're very much a part of our fellowship. The other thing that I think that we all have to be aware of is that, since we've been going at this for a year, it's kind of easy to, we'll say, let your faith kind of slip. And, and some people we haven't heard from a number of months now. So, we're just trying to stay in contact with them. And, again, I'd say it's a little bit of both.
So Pastor Tim with us here on the Megacast. He's with Shepherd King Lutheran Church. And with that, Pastor Tim, this has all been a roller coaster ride for all of us. We've had highs, we've had lows. But as someone who is leading a congregation, how are you doing?
That's a really good question. I would say for the past year, if I had to reflect, I was surprised at how much my routine gave me a security in life. Because as a pastor, you have a routine, you have deadlines, you write the sermon, you preach the sermon on Sunday, you visit people, there are fellowship events, there are events out in the community. My calendar was filled, and some of these were monthly, weekly, yearly events and things on my calendar. And when all of that disappeared, it was unnerving for me, because I had a routine that I counted on for decades, and that was gone. So it helped me to reflect, where exactly is my security and my hope in the time of life that is disrupted. And so, again, that was good for me to reflect on personally. And I found out through that, for me, the fellowship that I have with other people, I'm part of the Clergy and Community Forum in West Bloomfield, and talking with other people, in that particular group. I have a clergy circle and people that I meet with on a regular basis. And I was finding out we're all in the same boat. We're struggling with the same problems. And it was good to hear, oh, okay, good, I'm not the only one.
Right, because people aren't thinking that you, the person who is leading them, may be struggling as well. You're listening to 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake, 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. And with that, as I said, we've all been on a roller coaster. But for those that have struggled with their faith and their belief during this time, how did you lift them up in their moments of despair?
Well, I'd say there's two different things that I did. I'm also the chaplain of the fire department for West Bloomfield, so I do have some education in terms of like crisis or trauma or other things that happen in a person's life. So one thing that really helped me to share in that frame a message of hope is I spent 6 months doing 2 shifts in Beaumont health system as a chaplain. And so it really taught me, as I met with people all the time who were in crisis, to take things in very small chunks. People were concerned about what's going to happen to my family, what's going to happen to me, what's going to happen with my job, and really had to point them back. But you're in a hospital bed right now, and all you have to do is set this goal. This is what I need to do today, or here's what I need to do in the next hour. And that was really helpful to share with people who were in great distress, in the past year. I know you're thinking about all of these other things. Here's what you need to do now. And that was one thing that helped kind of calm people so they weren't quite so overwhelmed. Now, the other part of it, and, speaking with other Christians, was saying, we're putting our hope in Christ. And so, again, what is he doing in this situation, as opposed to what do I need to do? Help to kind of take that burden off of themselves and put it where it needed to be found.
One of the struggles for so many families throughout the pandemic are rites of passages surrounding things, funerals or even weddings, and you're in the heart of both of those circles. What has that experience been like?
It's been something that had to help us think out of the box and still supply the support that we need. I conducted some funerals. They had to be graveside. They had to be things that were with a limited amount of people. And we had to let them know, once we've got a herd immunity, we want to come back and we want to have a celebration in church and to remember these people. So we wanted to do that. The other thing that I conducted a wedding in August. How we pulled it off is by the grace of God. But there were all these weird restrictions, right? All these things that we had to do.
And they were changing by the week too. On a Wednesday, hey, starting Friday. And if I had my wedding planned, I would be like, what?
Right. Yeah. And I had a bride and a groom that were in my office on a regular basis saying, okay, you know what? And they were really great at it. Again, the bride is a nurse. And so she's kind of in that mode of, hey, things change. And she did a fabulous job of really kind of adjusting and pivoting to what needed to be done. So yeah, there were all of those things. My heart really went out to our high school seniors who graduated last year, and trying to make that, acknowledge or make that special for them. I wrote out a letter and a card, for them and let them know that I am and their church is thinking about them. But parents were like, we had everything all planned, and then, we had to change, and that was difficult. And that was the group that my heart really went out to the most.
Well, we are on the backside of this. Hope is around the corner with the vaccine. Pastor Tim with us here on the Megacast. He is with Shepherd King Lutheran Church in West Bloomfield, right at Orchard Lake and Middlebelt. And with that, Pastor, can I ask anything maybe we didn't touch on that you want to add before we say goodbye today?
Well, you had some really good questions. No, I'm looking forward to that day. I think the thing is, again, I'm still keeping my agenda a little bit day to day. There isn't an actual date on the calendar, and I can count down. So, there are things I need to do today. I've got to accomplish them. Things I need to do on Sunday. As this progresses, and hopefully it'll get better. Each and every month there'll be a time when we'll be able to return. So I think the thing that, again, looking in the future that I'm concerned about is we've been hypervigilant for the last year, and hypervigilance kind of ties in with PTSD. And I think it's going to be a while yet it's not really a switch we can pull and say, well, I don't need to be hypervigilant anymore. We're going to have to gradually be patient with people as we kind of roll into this process of getting back to our way of life.
Be patient and be kind. Pastor Tim, it's been great having you with us. We so appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And we can't wait until the day that we can come down there and drop off some cookies and say hello to you in person.
That'd be wonderful. I would love that. Thank you.
Well, you have a happy week. Thank you again for your time. Pastor Tim Holzerland with us. He is the pastor of Shepherd King Lutheran Church right here in West Bloomfield. We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast, and when we come back, we'll be speaking with the chair for the Pontiac Regional Chamber. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
Hi, my name is Kurt Lawson, and I'm the Public Information Officer for West Bloomfield Township. We wanted to reach out to you, our older adults, to provide information that you may find useful during this difficult time. We want to ensure you that West Bloomfield Town Hall, our Waters and Utility Department, West Bloomfield Parks, and our police and fire departments continue to work hard on your behalf. Information and resources can be found on the Township website, the police Facebook and Twitter, or call West Bloomfield Parks COVID-19 Help Hotline. Please remember to keep your social distance of at least 6 feet, wear facial coverings when you leave your home, and wash your hands for at least 20 seconds with soap. These precautions will help keep you safe during these difficult times.
As rivals, we don't always see eye to eye.
Like who scored the best recruits?
Who's gonna be who?
And whether we wear green or blue.
But one thing we can all agree on to help stop the spread of COVID-19. Wear a mask.
Wear a mask.
Wear a mask.
Wear a mask. Wear a mask.
The ball's in your court, Michigan.
Thank you for taking time out of your Thursday to be with us here on the Megacast. It's really Friday Eve.
It is.
It's how we like to think about today. As a reminder, you can catch Tyler and myself Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. till noon, live here, Civic Center TV, Birmingham Area Municipal Access, Channel 15 on Comcast, 99 on AT&T. You can also tune us in to the radio. Listen to us 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 FM The Biff. And then we also want to say thank you to the West Bloomfield Township Clerk's Office for allowing us to live stream today's edition of the Megacast on their Facebook page. Great things are happening in Pontiac. We spoke with the mayor earlier this week, and now next on the show, let's bring in Damany Head. He is the chair for the Pontiac Regional Chamber. Great to have you with us.
Oh, it's great to have you be here with you guys, and thanks for having me back, and look forward to continuing to work with you guys and share what's happening around the city.
A lot going on in the city of Pontiac. So many things. Where do you want to start? Why don't we go ahead and start with the Phoenix Center? It has been such an issue.
How come you always do that? Every time I come on, you want to talk about something like that. I'm like, oh
let's just get it out of the way. Come on, get it out of the way.
The tough parts
because
first,
then we're going to talk about.
You just had the mayor on a week ago. She should have told you everything you needed to know.
We talked about a lot with the mayor. I will say, to me, I love the Phoenix Center. Like, I went to one of my first country concerts there when it was Arts, Beats, and Eats. I have always felt it has been underutilized because when you have a stadium that's in the middle of your town, it is so unique, but it's also been this big point of contention because some people felt it broke up the city. Lawsuits, this, that, and the other, though, it's behind you. It's behind you. We're looking ahead, Damany. So, what's ahead?
Well, my hope is that, a public-private partnership is ahead. And, there's some really great entertainment businesses in the city. And I hope that, the mayor and the city council would work with those assets like M1 and Crowfoot and Erebus Escape to bring those guys together to bring solutions to, having a successful venture in a public-private partnership.
So with that, because it is the heart of the city, and it kind of is that footprint that can help shape the city, what would you like to see happen there? If you had a crystal ball and a winning lotto ticket, a huge lotto ticket, what would you do with that spot?
I think, what you said, making sure country western music is alive and real. I think that invites people, but there's also, other cultural music opportunities. I think we have Hispanic music, African American music. I would love to see OU, who has a world music event, expand that world music event to include country and, have a series of opportunities where up and coming stars can find their roots in Pontiac.
For me, when I went to the concert there, it was part of Arts, Beats, and Eats. I would love to see Arts, Beats, and Eats come back to the city of Pontiac.
I think there's more ideas out there. I think, we just have to support those entrepreneurs. I mean, I think, I forget the name of the gentleman who started Arts, Beats, and Eats, but, I think he got a lot of support. I talked to Rosemary Gallarda, and she's like, I remember sitting right next to him. She was the previous executive director of the chamber. So, she's like, I can remember when it was nothing. Right. It was just an idea, And so, an idea was born out of someone's brain. And I'm like, let's do that more often. Let's make sure we put the support mechanisms in place to keep building the cultural aspects of Oakland County and making sure that not only Arts, Beats, and Eats thrives, but maybe a world music festival. Maybe, why can't we have a country music festival? I mean, Oakland County is one of the top equestrian destinations in the state. So why not? Why not more country western?
I didn't know that. I will say, I was a little bit selfish in that I felt like Arts, Beats, and Eats, there was more room in the city of Pontiac, whereas in Royal Oak, you're kind of jammed into those little downtown areas, and there's no parking, and then there are neighbors, and this, that, and the other. But with that, great things, though, M1 Concourse, I think, is really going to help reshape Pontiac and put the city back on the map, not here just in the state regionally, but really worldwide as well.
Absolutely. I think, the Zoloff family and their partners are doing a really great job. They brought in, I think, the right experts from California to run their organization. You also have the PTM Transportation Museum. You have PMD, which does fabrication for turning Camaros into Pontiac Firebirds. So you also have the place that sells cars of the vintage nature in downtown Pontiac. So I think there's a lot of assets here. It's going to be, up to us as a community to take those assets and really create a great product for Oakland County and for the world.
So has the pandemic helped you realign your mission and refocus the mission, or has it set you back?
It's actually propelled what we've been waiting for. I think we did a great job in year 1 and 2 and 3 to share that, be ready for this economic transition that's going to happen. Position yourselves well, be ready to be a digitally based business. There's a lot of businesses in Pontiac that were only digitally based, and, we got knocked for that, but it was part of the game plan to make sure those digitally based businesses were strong enough to sustain themselves through this pandemic, but also what we call an economic changing. And so we just think this is the on-ramp for us, for all those young people and all the, 30-somethings and 20-somethings and, the teenagers who have been creating content on YouTube and, figuring out how to make, soul rolls or how to, make black box dinners or cooking barbecue. It's their time. It's their time to, show that, hey, I got the chops to build something that can sustain over the next 10, 20 years.
Damany Head with us here on the Megacast. He's the chairperson for the Pontiac Regional Chamber. And with that, I'm excited to see what's going to happen in the downtown area. I was there a couple weeks ago, though, and I was surprised at the number of empty storefronts. And talking with some people and some of the downtown businesses, one reason they were saying is because so many owners have come in there and let leases expire as they wait to try to find out whether or not they are going to get the green light to open up a medical marijuana dispensary. What is the future in that arena?
We're about to take over. That's the future. We got a lot of partners who are waiting to open their business. Whether it gets done, before the end of the year or not, it was really up to the mayor and the city council. But make no bones about it, the next person who sits in the mayor's seat is going to get that done, and you're going to have just a lot of organizations here that are going to pump money into Pontiac to bring people from Oakland County and surrounding areas into the city to purchase products that they make, whether they be the bud or offshoots, lotions, cookies, whatever. But they're here, and the first rollout of money's is going to be distributed at the state level. So, I think people are going to be quite upset when they realize that Pontiac didn't get their fair share and they had 2 years to get it done.
So with that, when it comes to Pontiac, because I believe the voters approved up to 20 licenses for the city of Pontiac?
They did. And so, there's 5 sectors of the city that really could use some economic development. And, some of these organizations have already come in here and, partnered with nonprofits and made a, contribution to those nonprofits. And, that's been held up. And so, I believe the deal will get done, before the end of the year. And if it doesn't, I know the next mayor who sits in that seat, whether it be Deidre, Mark Holland, Tim Grimel, will be under pressure to get that done. And so, it's really important for the economic development of the city. 1, it creates jobs. 2, it creates traffic. These are all things people have asked for and wanted. So, we're really excited. And, our position is that, we need to have assets in our community that are going to drive further economic development.
I will think it was brilliant how they have broken it up into sectors so that you didn't have everything concentrated in one neighborhood versus another. You can spread it out and spread out that development. But you're a guy with connections and in so many talks. What is the holdup? What's the big deal?
There's a lot on the mayor's plate right now. I can't imagine what it's like to be her. She's definitely still dealing with the measures of austerity that happened due to her emergency financial management. I still think she's in the firestorm methodology. She's just a great firefighter, and part of it is there's lots of fires. What do you do when you got lots of fires? You attend to those fires that have the most pressing need. A lawsuit with the Stevens family is definitely a pressing need. Not to mention we got thrown into COVID, so there's always, dealing with that. And so as the mayor, and this is going to be true for any mayor, like they're going to have to deal with rebuilding the enterprise called Pontiac the city of Pontiac and the municipal government, and making sure that they have all the pieces in place to deal with the fires and put those fires out, and so they can actually start building. So, our role is just to partner with them and support, in the best way we can to enable economic development, which, for us is really taking the time to work with the neighborhood businesses and bringing the neighborhood businesses into relationship with the county and larger businesses like United Wholesale Mortgage. We've been talking with them. We're having our annual event March 31st, which generally draws between 100 and 125 people. And, they're working with us to bring Mateen Cleaves to be the keynote speaker, which is really great. And so, people are always asking, what is the partnership between the city and United Wholesale Mortgage? And I'm like, you have to keep talking to them. You have to find ways to work with them. And, they've done really great things for the school district. I think they donated over $70,000 for books to the city of Pontiac School District. So, I just feel like we got to do more public-private partnerships. We got to support whoever's in office to help them better understand what our best practice is. And, we got to modernize our way of doing business in the city of Pontiac. And my hope is to lead that charge in modernizing that and making sure people get the best, So there's things that we have to deal with that were measures of austerity over the last 50 years that if we don't start dealing with it, we're going to leave it for the next generation to deal with.
And with that United Wholesale Mortgage, they are hiring like crazy right now. We have Amazon that's coming on. There is a lot of focus on some of these bigger companies coming into Pontiac. Yep. But we can't forget about our mom and pop shops during this time as well. And we are in the middle of COVID. But the good news is it looks like we're coming out of COVID. We're on the back end, and some of these businesses are going to start to see increased capacity. How important has the small business world been to the city of Pontiac?
I think it's the backbone, like you can have really great large business, multinational, national businesses, United Wholesale Mortgage, Amazon, Pepsi Cola, General Motors. Pontiac has all of those businesses. I think that at the end of the day, what creates the fabric of the community is really going to be the small business owners, right? The restaurateurs, the clothiers, right? The barber, the baker, the candlestick maker, right? So those people have done a really great job. I mean, you got April's Famous Bakes, which I'd love to send you guys some cookies. So make sure I get your address. She's amazing. Since you guys were talking about sending somebody cookies, I'll send you some.
We'll always take cookies.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we have some really great assets here. You got Avon Donuts, which I think is world class. So, Pontiac has the assets. Now it's just time to organize them, have them work together towards a greater end. And part of that is getting the citizens and the business community to work together to say, hey, what do we want this city to look like? In the conversation I had with United Wholesale Mortgage and M1, it's like, look, the asset's already here. We just got to finish it out, right? So you have a track, you have Ultimate Soccer Arena, you got a golf course, and then you got the Clinton River Trail. I mean, basically that paints a picture for me of what I should put there, right? And so, our hope is to partner with the city and the county to say, hey, we should be looking at the types of economic development that, support these assets.
And so with that good news with the schools, they're coming out of receivership and they're doing so much better than what they were a few years ago there in the city of Pontiac. So if you put that, the housing market right now is on fire, and it's crazy, and it's hard for people to get things in that surrounding area in the suburbs. Is this an opportunity for Pontiac to cash in on that world?
Absolutely. And, the Pontiac Regional Chamber kicked off a community schools effort called Pontiac United Education Coalition in partnership with the Pontiac School District, the charter schools, and the private schools. And so, we spent the last year talking and discussing how can we support a rapid turnaround and partnership and collaboration between everyone. And so we found some common ground. And, I think, when you look at it, the school district on its own can impact economic development in such a big way, right? So whether that's hiring more teachers, whether that's better performance out of the students, or whether that's, the impact that it has on the home values, right? So if your community is seen as a place where your child can get educated properly, I think, it ultimately changes the value of the home.
One of the issues that's been in the city of Pontiac is just like in the city of Detroit, people don't realize until they move in the increase in insurance that they pay. I know that this has been a huge platform for Mayor Duggan. Have there been any talks there in Pontiac to, alleviate some of those issues to help attract more people coming into the city? Or has that really not been a part of the conversation in Pontiac?
It's been part of my conversation. I've talked to Shannon Strybeck and Margaret Diamond, because one of the greatest costs not only is car insurance but also health insurance. Mm-hmm. And so we're discussing like what are the opportunities that we can have to make it more convenient, more user friendly for people to adopt living in Pontiac. I've expressed to them what New York State is doing around entrepreneurship and allowing people who win a contest to have 10 years of no tax for their community, for their business, and for their employees. And I think that's an important thing that we have to look at, is like what incentives are we offering to attract the right type of entrepreneurs into the community. You could also say the same thing for the right type of teachers, right? You could say the same thing for the right type of healthcare professionals. So I think what's critical now is just getting every leader to the table and saying, what do we want Pontiac to be? It's clear we're putting the austerity behind us. How do we put a nail in the coffin of austerity and start a growth cycle for the city?
Well, I think the future is bright within Pontiac, but it's what you just said there. It's really everyone has to come together and get a plan together so that it's cohesive in its issue or in its mission to see it come to fruition, because there are so many great things happening. People just need to understand that Pontiac is there, and it's not the Pontiac that so many people grew up with and they think that they know. And so with that, I'll leave you with this, is if someone hasn't been to Pontiac in a while, where should they go? Who should they visit? Your favorite restaurants?
They definitely should visit Carnival Market on Walton Avenue, or I think it's Walton Avenue or Walton Street. They definitely should take, order cookies from April's Famous Bakes, visit Avon Donuts, and probably, we're going to be talking about Restaurant of the Year. So just a sneak peek, you should check out Flavors of Jamaica right on Telegraph. Flavors of Jamaica is an amazing restaurant. They probably have the best vegan meals in the region. So if you're a vegan, it's a great opportunity to check out what they offer for vegans.
That's awesome. Well, it's been so great having you with us. Sorry to set you off on fire with the first question.
No, it's all. I appreciate it. I'm really thankful to be here. I'm really thankful to have the opportunity to participate in what Oakland County's putting together. I'm excited for the future of Dave Coulter, and I look forward to sharing the progress with you guys. Again, March 31st is our annual event. It's our 5th annual Prosperity Pontiac event, and Mateen Cleaves will be doing a keynote speech from United Wholesale Mortgage, and it's for us a great opportunity because our first Prosperity Pontiac had Greg Kelsler from the 1979 championship team. So all we're doing is working to build a championship team here in Pontiac, and so it's great to have Mateen Cleaves from the 2000 Michigan State Spartans championship team to kind of kick that off for the 5th year.
Well, it's great having people like you be such a champion for Pontiac as well. We so appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your time.
Damany Head with us here on the Megacast. He is the chair for the Pontiac Regional Chamber. We are going to take a quick break here on the Megacast, and when we come back, we'll be speaking with the West Bloomfield Township Treasurer. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
Hi, I'm Dr. Faust, the Medical Director for the Oakland County Health Division. The most important thing you can do to prevent the spread of illness is to wash your hands thoroughly and often. Follow these 6 easy steps every time you wash your hands. Step 1, turn on the sink and wet your hands with warm water. Step 2, apply soap to your hands and lather between your fingers, under your nails, and the front and back of your hands and wrists. Step 3, wash your hands by scrubbing them together for at least 20 seconds. Step 4, rinse your hands with warm, clean water. And step 5, dry your hands with a clean cloth towel, a paper towel, or hot air blow dryer. If you're using a cloth towel, make sure to change it often. For handheld faucets, turn off the water using a paper towel instead of your bare hand. Step 6, if you're using a paper towel, throw it away. Practice healthy habits like washing your hands after coughing or sneezing into them to keep you and others healthy. Go to oakgov.com/health or call Nurse on Call at 1-800-848-5533 to learn more.
Michigan, the coronavirus pandemic has put us all to the test. And now it's time to put COVID-19 to the test. As we move forward, testing will be critical. We encourage anyone who has reason to get tested to do so, those with symptoms and those without. If you are leaving home and going back to work, get tested. If you think you may have COVID-19 or you've been exposed recently through family, friends, or coworkers, get tested. Our test locator tool can help you find the right testing site that fits your needs. Even if you're looking for easy access with no cost, no prescription, and no appointment necessary, we've got you covered. Help Michigan move forward, not backward. To find a testing site or learn more, visit michigan.gov/coronavirus test. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Taking time out of your day to be with us here on the Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl here in the studios alongside Mr. Tyler Keefe. About 30 minutes left here in the show. Great conversation with the Pontiac Chamber. Good things are happening in Pontiac, but it really is, they need to come together with a plan to try to make Pontiac thrive, because not always the best things have happened in Pontiac. So hopefully it was like that downtown area was really getting some excitement, and then it just crashed.
Yeah, and no, part of that has been, as he said, the issues that they've had in the past with emergency financial management, and coming out of that and trying to keep the momentum going while also balancing transitioning away from that era and into more of an independent government era, as most places have the luxury of having. But on top of that, they do need to have a plan, and it's good to have leaders in place there like Damany Head in the community that are helping to push that, hopefully, in that direction sooner rather than later.
Everyone likes to dance around the question when it comes to the marijuana license.
Okay, of course.
But there are so many businesses. I was really surprised. I was in Pontiac last week, and there are so many empty storefronts. And I know that my husband's barber, he moved out and moved to Auburn Hills because he was downtown Pontiac for years, and his lease had expired. And there's so much uncertainty as these business owners and these building owners wait to find out whether or not they are going to get the green light to go ahead. So we'll keep an eye on that to see how all of that plays out, and of course they're doing it all in the middle of a pandemic. With us now here on the Megacast, let's welcome in Terry Weingarten. She's the West Bloomfield Township Treasurer. Terry, thank you for being with us.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So I know that you're the West Bloomfield Township Supervisor, but you're on our show today to talk about wisdom. But before we get to that, how are things going in the township right now?
Things in the township are going great. We have been open to the public since beginning of June, and we have COVID precautions in place. We have plexiglass. We ask people to wear masks, but we've been open for business, and we've been very careful with our employees to make sure we're staying safe. And our residents have been really great about respecting the guidelines in the township. So we've been business as usual as much as we can. Just finished winter tax collection, and that went pretty smoothly as well. And we're preparing at this point that we're going to have a school election this spring, West Bloomfield schools. So we've been all keeping busy, but like I said, things have been going really well. I think we've been doing really good work at the board level, and the township's very much in sound fiscal condition as well. So that's always good.
Yeah, and so if we can talk about that for just a little bit, Terry, because you are the money manager there for West Bloomfield. So many cities are struggling right now due to the pandemic, but I know that when we talk with the township supervisors, things are pretty good in West Bloomfield because of the tax base, right?
have always been very fiscally conservative. I mean, we're all Democrats on the board, but we're all actually fiscal conservatives, which is kind of a nice blend. We've always been very proactive with funding our pension and our retiree health care obligations. We actually bonded that out before it was even something the state was pushing municipalities to do. And we've always been really good with making sure that we do 10-year projections and we plan for downturns. Our real estate base has been coming back very well since, the Great Recession. It will never quite be back at the levels we were just because of the way, the property tax structure is. But we're fine. We live within our means, and we have a very supportive community that does, let us have a public safety millage so that we can keep very good public safety in the township. So, yeah, the township has fared well. I mean, I know that it's been very hard on everyone, especially our residents, and we do understand. But because we were prepared and made sure we had, a good balance in our coffers, we haven't had to dig into that. We don't plan on having to, close down, lay off employees. None of that has ever been something we've had to thankfully consider.
Yeah, and we should know the housing market right now is on fire.
Yes. There's so much demand. There's not a lot of inventory, and people have actually been paying above asking price on a lot of homes. So the way that works really quickly from a tax standpoint is when you live in your home, because of the way the taxes are with Proposal A, your taxes don't go up very much. So your home could be a $300,000 home that could go up to $500,000, but your taxes aren't going to go up to $500,000. They're going to stay nice and even. What happens, though, is if your home sells, it uncaps, and then taxes can go at the actual, state equalized value of the property. So basically, the way a community gets more tax revenue is home sales. I mean, we love our residents staying forever, being lifelong residents. We don't want people to move away. But when people do transition sometimes into maybe a smaller home, and then their bigger home resells, it does allow us to gain more revenue.
Terry Weingarten with us here on the Megacast. She's the West Bloomfield Township Treasurer. And now that we have township business out of the way, I know that you really came on the show to talk about wisdom, something outside of your township duties there. So tell us about wisdom.
Sure. So my day-to-day life is the township, but in the nights and weekends, I'm very much married to my organization, Wisdom. We're a women's interfaith group. It stands for Women's Interfaith Solutions for Dialogue and Outreach in Metro Detroit. Say that 10 times fast. So, wonderful organization. Started officially as a nonprofit back in May 2007. There were a few interfaith women that met at this interfaith play, and they started talking after the play, and they realized, wow, we actually have a lot in common, and it's really good to talk to people from different backgrounds. So a lot of people in the community know Gail Katz, West Bloomfield resident, very involved in the community. She was one of the founders of Wisdom and the person who I first met in Wisdom. And we're an interfaith board, so we have women leadership from our communities, mainly Oakland County, but we do pull from a few other counties as well. And we're all different religions. So for instance, I'm Jewish, and there are a few Jewish women on the board. We have people from all different religious backgrounds, Muslim, Baha'i, Buddhist, so Christian, and different areas of Christianity. We have people from Catholicism, we have Latter-day Saints. So we really try to have a good representation of women from different religious backgrounds, because at the end of the day, we find that we have way more in common than we have differences. Kind of our main program, our hallmark program, is called 5 Women, 5 Journeys. And what we do in this program is we'll be brought into sometimes communities, colleges, even middle schools, all sorts of different groups. And we have 5 women from different religious backgrounds and a moderator. And we talk about, our family backgrounds, our childhood, religious traditions. And we kind of discuss some of the topics that people have questions about. Like, for instance, they made it say to one of my Muslim sisters, what's with the hijab or the scarf you wear on your head? And then they might say to me, and what about the men? And they wear the cap, the yarmulke on their head. And we'll talk about how we grew up and how religion played in. And it's just so interesting because what we're really trying to show, like I said, is how similar we are, especially the Abrahamic religions, which would be Judaism, which is the Old Testament, the Torah, then Christianity, which is the New Testament, the Bible. And then you get into Islam, which adds the Quran, and then Latter-day Saints, which adds the Book of Mormon. So we have other interfaith traditions as well, but it's very much fascinating to people that might not realize that those religions are very much intertwined and they all start on the same basics. So I think a lot of people don't know that. And I think a lot of people have been surprised to find that our Muslim sisters actually do believe in the Bible. I mean, they believe in all the basics of the Jewish and Christian religions. And people, tend to not understand the differences and similarities. So we also have, I'll promote it, we have a new edition that recently came out of our book. And this book, Friendship and Faith, has 52 stories from women from your community. I'm in the book, but there are certainly more interesting stories than my own. And it really gives you kind of a snapshot into interfaith friendship and faith. And it really kind of gives you a feel for the people behind wisdom, the heart of wisdom, the friendship and sisterhood of wisdom. I don't know what kind of questions you have. I'm talking a mile a minute.
No, it's very interesting. I'm wondering, how has it been in this recent atmosphere where people are maybe afraid to ask questions? Is this one of those arenas of a safe arena for people to be able to open up, because no one wants to be the person who asks the dumb question that is considered insensitive?
Very good question. So this is exactly and precisely the arena and one of the main reasons. I mean, one of the reasons we say is to create space for peace. So what that means is to be able to sit down and have a talk. We do these sister circles where you literally, not obviously in a pandemic world, but we would go out to dinner and a group of women would sit around dinner from different religions and we would just talk. Oh, how's work going? How's the family? Oh, my daughter's getting married. Oh, my daughter's getting married. Or somebody in my family passed away. And you talk about these life cycle transitions, the birth, the marriage, the death, and you find out about each other. And you can ask tough questions. And this year and last year, we've really been focusing on exploring more, how do our sisters of color fit into this? Like, not just, maybe the churches and synagogues here in West Bloomfield, Michigan, but what about the Baptist Church? So we actually are right now, we've watched the Black Church series on PBS, and we're going to be discussing that. The leadership team within Wisdom, we read White Fragility, and we're discussing that. And we're trying to really internally look into our organization to make sure we're being representative and respectful. And those are hard discussions. They're very hard discussions. But we understand that in order to connect with others and to not make them feel like the other, you need to step out of your comfort zone. You need to educate yourself. And it's a long life learning process. And sometimes you're going to make a mistake. You're going to maybe say something that wasn't the right thing to say. But then you're going to have somebody there to say, maybe a better way to say that would be this. Because sometimes you don't really know that you're misunderstanding something, but it's good to have a safe area to talk about these kind of discussions and really come together. Like, I consider these women my sisters. I mean, truly, these are my friends, my sisters. And they'll call me sometimes, they'll say, oh, I had a coworker and they're Jewish and their mother died and I don't know what to do. I don't know what's appropriate. Do I send flowers? Do I bake? Do I make a donation? And those kind of nuances are different from religion to religion. And it's just nice to be able to call a friend and say, I want to do the right thing, but I'm not sure what that is. And we really do allow for that within the organization.
And with the education, it's all about educating one another and being open to those uncomfortable conversations. Terry Weingarten, how can people find out more about your organization, the Wisdom Organization, and also how can they buy the book?
Good questions. So Friendship and Faith, I, as the Wisdom president, believe me, I have inventory. It's a $20 book. It's well worth the read. It's a really nice way to kind of get to know the ladies in the organization through your community. It's also available on Amazon, Friendship and Faith, and I believe you can even buy it on an ebook. We are a membership organization, so we welcome women in the community to join. When we have events, men and women are definitely able to participate. And if anyone has any questions, they can contact me or go and look for Women's Interfaith Solutions on the web. But we would love to have you, and we'd be happy to also come to local communities or libraries or schools. We're about to go to a middle school online and share our stories.
Well, Terry, we so appreciate your time and your conversation. Thank you again for being with us.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
And best of luck with the book, because we do live in a very diverse community. It's very valued here in our neighborhood. We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast, and when we come back, we will be joined by Robin Lafrance. She is the president of Art Sale. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
The only way to beat COVID-19 is to face it.
You can't get too comfortable.
You can't forget the danger.
Wear the mask. Wear the mask.
Wear the mask. Wash your hands.
Keep a safe distance.
Especially in the next few months.
You know we'll get back to normal.
We'll get back to normal.
We'll get back to normal.
Someday.
But not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
But not yet.
But not yet.
Consider virtual gatherings for the holidays.
Curbside food orders.
Grocery delivery.
And shopping local. Shop local.
And especially shopping local.
Let's beat this virus. We can if we face it together.
Together.
Together. Together.
Together.
Together.
Together.
Together. Together.
Together. Together.
For the latest information, visit oakgov.com/COVID.
COVID-19 has caused many families to fall behind on finances and on groceries. But you're not alone. You shouldn't have to worry about putting food on the table. My Bridges offers access to quality food and income assistance to help families across the state get the food support they need. It's easy to apply and easy to start shopping. Apply for services at michigan.gov/MIBridges. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Welcome back to the Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl here in the studios with Mr. Tyler Keefe. Just about 15 minutes left here in the Thursday edition of the Megacast. Tyler, I have no artistic talent whatsoever.
I have very little, so it's good that we have our next guest on to talk about people that do.
And there are so many people right now over the past year, because of the pandemic, they have tried to exercise and become better artists. With us now on the show is Robin Lafrance. She is the president of Art Sale. Thank you again for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
And you want to talk about talent. Robin is an amazing painter. I've seen some of your work on Facebook. Robin, for those not familiar with Art Sale, give us some background to the group.
Well, I would love to tell the story on how we started, which is kind of cute. It was a grassroots effort by Susan Emmerling, and she just threw it out there on Facebook. So I saw it as I moved into Keego Harbor almost 5 years ago now, and she right away I connected with the art part of it, and she threw out there a contest to name the group. So that's what created the interest, and it was really quite a fun experience. So we had all these people chiming in on Facebook to name the group, and I forgot who named it, but we accepted the name and started the Facebook page, and that's how we started off.
If I remember correctly, a few years ago, pre-COVID, there was a festival. Wasn't there over at Roosevelt Elementary? And it had so many artists, and there's so much talent right here in our neighborhood.
There really is, and Art Sale is coming up on 5 years now, and we started, like I said, very small. And the main purpose originally for the group was for artists and like-minded crafters and of all sorts to just connect and have that networking, and then it evolved from there. So in the beginning, we had absolutely no money, and so we organized a few shows. One of the first ones, we were invited by Gino to do his cruise night, which was fun, and then we went on to do a couple of small shows at Eagle Harbor City Hall. But as we progressed, we wanted to keep it affordable for the artists, because lots of us are starving artists. You know, it's you're not making giant money or anything, so we wanted to keep it affordable for everyone. So in the beginning, we required everyone to bring a dozen cookies, and we had a bake sale to raise funds to progress our efforts.
Some people don't realize to enter some of these big art fairs, like the big one in West Bloomfield and some of these other ones, there's an entrance fee, right? What are those fees typically?
Last time I checked was St. Mary's. It was up to $350 just to enter.
Ooh.
And we typically try and keep our entry fee at $35.
So with that, it's been a crazy year. All festivals have been pretty much closed down and shut down to the public. So how have you guys been able to remain connected during this past year?
Well, we, like everybody, we had shows planned for this year and they were shut down. And I'm even in a little art collective store in Waterford that was closed when everything had to close. So most of us crafters lost our work or our venues, so to speak, over the last year, just like everybody else that was put out of work. So we, you know, our Facebook page is where we do most of our show and tell, so to speak, where the artists post their work and connect visually, and usually we have a meeting once a month, which we haven't been able to do. We've had one Zoom meeting over the past year, and it really we didn't have much become of it because of all our venues being shut down. So lately we're hopeful in the future. We're as things start to open back up. My little store is open. We have the Oakland County Farmers Market coming up this year, but it won't be until October. Whereas in the past year, we had 3 opportunity shows scheduled for COVID year, which were canceled. So it really has affected all the artists and crafters too as well.
But during this time, Robin, have you been able to create more artwork because we're all shut in and not spending as much time outside of our homes?
Well, one fun thing for me is I was able to have the time to put into my basement to make a better workspace for myself. So I did create a better studio, if you will. It's not a storefront by any means or anything like that. It's just a fun place for me to work. So I have been creating more, and over the winter I generally paint more anyway, but it really has been inspiring. And one thing about the group is all the artists and crafters in the group inspire me daily with their posts and their new ideas, and the friendship and everything I've gotten over the 5 years has been nothing but progressive and inspirational.
Robin Lafrance with us here on the Megacast. She's the president of Art Sale. And so when we're thinking of artists, what type of artists can join this group, or is it open to everyone?
Well, we are an all-encompassing group for the arts, so we welcome musicians, and that's something that I would really like to encourage going forward, is more musicians, dancers, writers, poets, whatever falls into the arts, crafts, fine art category is welcome in the Art Sale group. And we started with, like I said, the very small grassroots nucleus, and I think we're up over 500, close to 550 members on the Art Sale Facebook page. So we also welcome fans of the arts, because, you know, not all of us are artists, and those artists need the fans. So, but we will have future this year. Being hopeful, we'll have a couple of future opportunities. One is at the little art collective store in Waterford called The Muse. There will be a little outdoor pop-up, and I'm going to host 2 hours of music there with an open mic. So if anyone is interested in joining the art sale group, the Facebook page for more information on that. We welcome musicians going forward, and all the arts, like I said.
Musicians have really had a tough year this year as well, because
Yes, they have.
so many of them. But we are seeing more and more restaurants as they're opening back up to 50% capacity. More of these musical acts are being booked right now, which is good. And we always say get out and support our local artists, musicians, or people such as yourself. Your paintings are incredible. What inspires you?
Mostly where I live. I love Kego Harbor. I call it my Mayberry. This will be my forever home. I love it here. I love being able to walk out my front door and see the sunset on the lake and all the nature around me. And I went to school for art and music originally. And, life happens, gets in the way, and I'm at the point where I can really explore what I initially went to school for. So.
I always say that we're lucky enough to live in nature's backyard. It's like nature's playground, and we're just there to experience it. Robin Lafrance with us here on the Megacast. And Robin, what's it been like in the online arena for some of the artists? Have you been able to sell some of your work through Marketplace or Etsy or some of these other online retail outlets?
Well, this year has been interesting because I have 2 Etsy stores. One did pretty well, but with the pandemic, the only thing that was selling was masks, and nobody could get them. So I jumped into the mask arena, and because I had to learn how to make them, I had to find the materials, which were non-existent in the beginning. If you remember the shortage with all PPE. So that was an investment for me, and as many as I sold, I didn't really make any money because it was just turning over products, so to speak, because of the investment. But I was happy to fill a need, and it did bring some attention to my Etsy store. So going forward, I hope now that I supplied that niche that people will look at the rest of my stuff again.
So, Robin, with that, the vaccine is starting to be more widely available for artists such as yourself and other members of Art Sale. Is that really your hope at the end of the tunnel, that you guys can get back to sharing your work? Because while even having things online, we all love going to art fairs, because to me, that's where you buy the most unique gifts.
Yes, that's what we're hoping for. Everybody is. And it's starting to, little by little, open back up. And hopefully this year, the art sale group will be able to put on a show. Over the past 5 years, we've tried to put on 2 shows a year. We did a big one at Gino Santia Hall a couple of years ago. And the group originally, I don't want to forget to say this, but we started as a kind of a co-op model where everybody, because our fees are so low, we've asked everybody to pitch in and to take a small job to put on the show. And everybody, for the most part, kicked in on that. Me and Susan Emmerling have been doing most of the background work as far as publicity and stuff like that, but we've tried to include music at the shows, which is what I'm going to try and do at the Muse coming up. And so it's kind of back in the saddle time.
Well, we're hoping for a brighter tomorrow, and our festivals are back, because we also know, too, for so many people, through your art is a great way for you to deal with stress and heal as well. And you guys, Tyler, you have to go on the Facebook group. Anyone out there is Art Sale, and you can see some of the work. They're so creative. There's a jewelry maker on there. There's a lady who did a painting with green peppers, of all things. Yeah. So you guys are so creative, and we wish you the best of luck, and let's hope for a return to the festivals. Robin Lafrance with us here on the Megacast. She's the president of Art Sale. That's pretty much going to wrap it up, though, for the Thursday edition. I keep wanting to say it's Friday.
It feels like it. It's because the weather's been so nice. We're happy, and we're upbeat, and it's warm outside, but it's only Thursday. We got one more. We're almost there, Ronnie.
We're almost there. So with that, we want to wrap up today, but thank you again, Robin, for being with us, and we wish you and all of the artist and Art Sale continued success, and let's hope that this summer is a much better one and a much brighter one. And with that, we're going to say goodbye for the day. Stay safe, stay healthy. Tyler and I will be back tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. bright and early. This is the Oakland County Megacast.